quick shout out, if y'all can just give a round of applause to Digital Motion in the back for helping us to record. Really appreciate you guys. We've worked with Digital Motion on a number of initiatives, probably more recently SLOS Tech, but also our cybersecurity conference that we do in partnership with the Birmingham chapter of InfraGard, as well as Central Alabama ISSA. And we've evolved that over time. We actually have 2025 coming up shortly. That's going to be in April. So we're now calling it the Southeast Cybersecurity Summit. So if you go to secybersecurity.com, they'll take you to the website. We have call for presentations that are open. So if you are interested, or if anybody in your network is interested in presenting at that conference, be sure to go ahead and submit. We are victims of success. We've actually had to move it. We're now at the BJCC. So again, that's going to be in April. I encourage you all to come out and definitely submit if there's anything that you would like to lift up and present on as well. Quickly, Dion Gordon, I have the pleasure and the honor of serving as the president and CEO of Tech Birmingham. This is the last Tech Tuesday that we have. So as much as I would like to offer up a recap, I won't do that just yet. We'll be sharing some end of the year material with you all. Want to make sure that we have proper time allotted for our wonderful panel here. But I do want to just take the opportunity to say thank you all to the entire technology community. This has been a whirlwind, and I think it's safe to say a banner year for the organization. We've grown. Jared had a lapse in judgment and decided to join us full time. So thank you for that, Jared. We obviously know the stellar work of Anna Topping, and the board just continues to lean in. If you are a Tech Birmingham board member, can you just raise your hand quickly? Just want to recognize you all. Round of applause for them as well. It's not hyperbole when I say that we couldn't do this without them. We're a small, mighty team, but it really takes a board to lean in and not just attend the meetings, but the committee meetings, the meetings when I can't take it. They really stand in the gap and lead the charge. So just wanted to say thank you all for every single thing that you do, not just for the organization, but for the entire ecosystem. And speaking of the ecosystem, we got to give a shout out to Mary Wallace Hannon and Regents. Hey, Mary Wallace, for sponsoring this. And again, of course, they have been wonderful partners when it comes to Tech Tuesday, but they've just been wonderful partners for the organization and the ecosystem. So truly, truly grateful. I won't give it away, but we're going to be cooking up some awesome things in 2025 that I think will excite you all. SLOS Tech 2025, it is a long time away, but it is going to be here before we know it, because here we are, the year is almost over. So we have dates set for that, June 25th through 27th. I encourage you to go to the website, sign up. You might notice that extends over 3 days now. The conference continues to grow. One of the things that I enjoy the most is when I travel and people from San Francisco or New York, wherever they may be, talk about SLOS Tech and talk about what it is that we're doing in this city and in this region. And it has impact. So whether you share a tweet about it, whether you attend, whether you bring somebody, you have a role to play, not just in the success of that conference, but just in the success of Birmingham. So super grateful for you all. That said, I think it's probably a good time to pivot. Before we get into, I do want to say thank you to Smita. I think I was on a conference call and I hear a knock at my office, and she pulled a kick door. She's like, I don't give a damn if you're on that call. She's like, I have this idea. I want to do this. We have a burgeoning product development community in Birmingham, and we want to lift it up. And I was sold. I'm like, say no more. And so what you are seeing on the stage right now is the result of her idea, her tenacity. And so I'm just super grateful for you, Smita, and for allowing Tech Birmingham to be a part in this. So all that said, you are in for a treat. I know some of the folks up here personally. And if you have spent any time around people in product development, you know that this is where the rubber hits reality, quite honestly. All of the ideas and the prototyping and the strategy sessions, it takes a lot to go from concept to concrete. So I'm certain that you all are going to leave with some wonderful insights and wisdom and nuggets. So with all that said, help me to welcome our moderator, Smita Patil.
Thank you. Thank you, Dion. Thank you for taking my request seriously. This is a dream come true for me. I do know a lot of folks that work in product, but this was an opportunity to bring you out of your shells into this open environment so we can share and grow together, right? Next slide, please. So what we're going to do today is just introduce ourselves first. We will jump into some deeper conversations with the panel on product issues, product struggles from the product perspective, honestly, not agile or lean today. And then we will have a small Q&A at the end. We have about 5 to 10 minutes where we want to give you an opportunity to kind of ask questions that are near and dear to you. And our panelists here, who are the experts in their field, are going to help us, through that Q&A too. And I may have another question at the end of that. So a little bit about myself. Let me just start with me. I have worked in Agile, Lean, and Product for the past decade or so, primarily doing coaching for Fortune 20, Fortune 50 companies, worked remote right out of Birmingham. I know they say, how would you get an opportunity in Birmingham like that? No, I did not, but I did stay here, and I wanted to stay here with you all, with my community, my people. It's been a great opportunity to be here today, and I'm hoping that we are able to grow the product community. Right on there, you will see a small logo at the bottom on the screen which says Birmingham Product. That is our user group. We started in August, and we did a survey, and we got a lot of support. But we want to grow that community. So we are looking for speakers. We are looking for companies who want to share their product journey with our group. And we're also looking for sponsors. Believe me, it doesn't cost that much. So it's a great opportunity to also market your company, your product through our platform. So with that being said, I'm going to turn around to Trevor. Trevor,
you got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm Trevor Newberry. I am the director of product at Harmony Venture Labs. We are, I believe, the only, or maybe one of only a couple venture studios in the state of Alabama. We build and launch B2B SaaS businesses and products. We do that in collaboration with a lot of the corporate entities here in our area, so we're really grateful for that kind of partnership. Previously, I was a consultant to first-time and non-technical founders, helping them get their products off the ground. And in previous lives, I've been a professional musician, a chef, a music minister. I've done a lot of different things. But right now, I'm all about product. I love my job. I love the team that we get to work with, and I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
All right, my turn. So I'm Maggie. I'm the senior director of product design at Shipt, so just right across the street. I started out my career a long time ago at this point in consulting, but as a result of that, I was exposed to a bunch of different company contexts, right? And this sort of intersection of design and tech and business was really kind of what I felt like kept pulling me in. And that ultimately led me to get an MBA because I really wanted to understand how to create experiences that weren't just valuable to the user, but also to the business. Spent some time at Verizon, working on a product at mass scale, right? I think we had something like close to 20 to maybe 30 million monthly active users at the time, and had a really great experience there. But I realized, as a part of that, the part that I loved the most about that intersection was the design aspect and actually being much closer to the user, the customer. And that's ultimately what led me to Shipt. I spent my first 5 years at Shipt focused on the gig worker experience. So those are the people we've got going into the stores and shopping. And recently, actually, it was about last year, my role expanded to include our marketplace experience as well. So something y'all are probably a bit more familiar with. Those are the members going on to Shipt.com and placing orders. So it's been really interesting to see kind of that double-sided marketplace really come to life, and see how we can create things with shoppers that resonate with members and vice versa.
I can totally relate to the grocery world since I worked in that. So, yeah, it's fascinating. It's very fast moving.
It is.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Rao. Is this on?
Yeah.
I've been in the Birmingham market for my whole career, working on the agency side in consultative sales, whether it is for Fortune 100 companies or for a local baker down the street. I got the chance right before COVID to have a fabulous experience of going and working as a agency hire for Google, where I got to work on global campaigns, national campaigns, very data-focused, data-oriented media campaigns. And from there, I got a chance to work with fabulous and highly intelligent, highly innovative product marketing managers and performance marketing managers out in California, who kind of showed me a whole new world beyond just what I had heard and seen in the industry to date. And it really opened my eyes and got me very curious about the world at large and how data can really look backwards into how the product focuses, what the product features end up being. And it allows for a lot of consultative conversations, internal and external, to a company's future. And then from there, wonderfully, I got a chance to work on data privacy, which that's a whole more fun thing. In working with global companies for many years, I was still hanging out with my Birmingham business owner friends, and they weren't getting access to a lot of the innovative ideas and technologies and strategies that I've been developing over the last many years. And so last year I left all the global world behind and started up my own house of just data-oriented product marketing and product-driven conversations. So I created our consulting, and I had to create it really fast because I had a few clients I needed to launch projects with. So I had no time to actually name it something clever. Hopefully that's the next rebrand. So anybody with ideas on how to name a company, I can't even name a company. So it's just our consulting. So at least enough of anything else, it's very easy to remember. So.
As long as we can, place a face on that business, we know whose it is, I think we're good. Thank you. What a great panel to work with today. I want to give a big applause to just welcome them. Thank you. We're going to jump right into the panel discussion. We have a few great questions for our panelists. It's going to last about 30 to 40 minutes, so I'm going to go right in there. Okay, so first question. Can we go next slide? Thank you. Today we are not going to go into the details or the basics of product management or product mindset. We can definitely, we need one more click on there. Okay. What you can see on the screen is just a basic idea of product lifecycle, right? A product goes through ideation to discovery and development, release, and then into the maintenance mode where we do a lot more of measuring and learning. And then at some point you want to retire or sunset that product. But through all this, I'm sorry if I'm doing this, it's because I'm asking her to go through the slides. But through all this, as you can see, there are different points that matter. So different phases, and then in those different phases, we have all these different people. And when you put people, tools, and processes together, it gives rise to what you call it as chaos, right? So, and we've all been there. So team collaboration is a very, very key point when you're working with people and you're working on a product that is set on a certain vision. So I want to ask my whole panel, not only just, Trevor or anybody, just some certain person, but the whole panel, like, how do you guys collaborate across departments just to make sure that product and design and marketing are working in harmony? And, you could start, anyone can start, but I would love to know everybody's perspective. How do you guys bring in that collaboration?
Well, I'll jump in. So what we do at Harmony Venture Labs is a little bit different in that most of my work, really my specialty, is in 0 to 1 product development, right? So it looks a little different, but I think the principles still apply across the different life cycles of a company. So first and foremost is just good documentation, right? So canonical documents, things that everybody on the team knows they can go to. We use a number of tools to do this. Most of the time it's in the Google Suite. We use Miro a lot for visualizations, but just making sure that all of the projects that we're working on, which at any given time can be from 3 to 6 different projects. So it's a kind of, that adds another layer of chaos to operations. So that's the first thing. And the second thing specific to this 0 to 1 phase is making sure that we are communicating frequently. I have a strong bias towards synchronous in-person work for this stage. That's not always a popular opinion, but I have found that it has really accelerated the learning across our team when we can actually run into each other, when we can jump into conference rooms together, because everything at the stage is experimental. Everything at the stage is learning. There's a lot of failures along the way, and really the name of the game is doing that iterative experiment and learn process as fast as possible. So if you're not in person at this stage, you can totally pull that off, but you have to be more diligent about documentation, having a writing culture, communicating frequently in Slack, using Zoom and Google Meet really, really frequently. So that's what I do. I really kind of head up making sure that our team is, the documents are where they need to be, they're updated frequently and maintained, and that we are constantly running into each other to bounce ideas off of each other and learn from the experiments we're running. So,
thank you. Do you guys want to add something from your domains?
Yeah, sure. Happy to add something. I think as a designer, it's probably my responsibility to say that I think the key to most successful cross-functional collaboration is starting out with a shared vision, right? That's really at least how I've had the most success in generating kind of organizational buy-in to ensure everybody's getting the same message, right? As marketing communicating down the same message as design, as product. So I think that's probably a big piece in terms of the upfront work. And then just to reiterate something that, or reiterate kind of Trevor's point, the other piece of it is establishing the right rituals, right? Because alignment, as much as we all wish it is not a one and done at all. It's a constant evolving, a constant checking in. And one thing that, I do with my teams is say, hey, are you getting the information that you need to make good decisions in your role? And if the answer is no, then we need to iterate the process. If the answer is yes, then we ultimately should see aligned work.
Thank you.
I mean, I completely agree with both of what Trevor and Maggie have said. It is fascinating. So in my experience, my career, I've worked on the external side of a lot of companies, on the agency side, and I have nearly built a career as coming in as a third-party buffer between an agency who is not communicating thoroughly and with a company who doesn't know how to define, value propositions, talking points to an external party. And a lot of times it's the internal communication is there, the processes are there, the platforms, the communication, everything. But the external teams, the agencies who's doing the media buy, who's doing the creative necessarily, doesn't agree, doesn't necessarily see the same thing that the people who have been in the grind, building the product, designing the product, launching the product for months or years even, really see as like the intrinsic value. And so a lot of times I'm brought in as almost a legal mediator, like communicating on both sides, trying to get the project to launch and like have very articulated attribution strategies and data-driven, media buys and channel specifics, all that fun stuff. But it goes back to, you have to have that collaboration with all parties that are going to touch this product. And, even internally, you could have 15 more people up on the stage because so many different departments touch the product, whether it's finance, manufacturing, IT for the server space needed for a SaaS product, or manufacturing for a physical product. Anything can be up here, but marketing, in terms of product marketing, we have to kind of collaborate with everybody at all points, at all times. And I think Trevor's, you do have a synergy of bumping into somebody at the next cubicle. So many things can be left off of Slack. It is a little bit of a synergistic environment when you are in person. For a lot of remote companies, that same kind of synergy is still developing, and it's still unique to each company, I think. But yeah, the collaboration has to be strong, thorough, and intentional with what I've seen.
I agree. Intentional it is. And product, or even just the company culture, makes such a big difference. And the more you build it that way, starting, grounds up, it is really helpful, right? You're seeking that benefit later. Thank you, guys. It's wonderful. So we're going to dig deeper a little bit into data. And I know we ended with Melissa on the last question, but I think I have a question for you. So, data takes so much of our attention nowadays. Everything is fact-based decisioning, and product metrics play a huge role. But then before even you release a product, in the early stages of defining a product and positioning it and all of that, there is a phase where you define, where you kind of come up with a compelling value proposition. So most times value proposition is misunderstood. And I was surprised a lot of times when people ask me that, are we trying to put a number like $1,000, maybe $100 on a product? And I'm like, no, that's not what it is. It's your key differentiator, right? It tells the customer, think of you, in a grocery store on the aisle trying to pick up something that you wanted to it's on your grocery list and you're trying to pick it up. But there are so many other products, but there's only one that you're going to pick up. And that separates your product from others. That just defines it for itself. So that's where value proposition comes in. How are you going to make sure that your product is defined in a unique way? In that context, I'm thinking data plays a role. And she's nodding her head. I'm happy about that. I'm thinking she's going to give us something awesome here. So how do you ensure that it resonates with different customer segments? Because you're selling it to some target customers, but then, that is the point where you're, defining the value.
So data is my jam. I like to say I am the nerdiest person in any kind of marketing agency. I am the one who goes to a spreadsheet and color codes it to make it pretty, because that is what I do all day. As I look in data, I pivot table data. It's my jam. But having a value conversation, it starts and ends with data. So you have to. Back in the old days, we didn't have this data available at our fingertips. It was kind of like in the 1920s when Babe Ruth was pitching, pointing out where he was going to hit the ball. Like, that was how companies had to launch products. They had to just gesture to the world of how they want to be defined, what they assumed the customer wanted to see. Nowadays, we have so many articulated messaging units that allow us to better understand how someone's buying, when they're buying, what frequency at which are they buying, at what price point are they buying, at what quantities. Every little thing can be kind of understood and nuanced, and it allows for companies like Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is one product, but they have 1,000 different SKU product identifiers. So they have 2 liters, they have six packs, they have cans, they have mini cans, they have leaflets. All of that is a different value proposition because they understand that their customer wants different versions of that one product articulate it specifically to how they want it in that one instance. Going back into the tech world, it allows for us to communicate a specific nuanced understanding of our product, a feature of our product that has a huge benefit. That's a huge thing that when I was in consultative sales, I had to kind of educate people that there's a huge difference between a benefit and a feature. A feature is what an internal company says, like, oh, we have these bright new shiny things, but the benefit to the customer is how you want to communicate that out. And it's very, very different, the way the words you use, the connotations you use, the language, the characters, the creative, all of that. But data can help you start that conversation, define it, and then make you feel very confident in this is the message that we need because of all these different data sets.
Thank you. That was awesome. She is nerdy, isn't she? She's a data king.
I will make some pretty spreadsheets, y'all.
Yeah. That was the thing that made me put her on the panel, actually. I was very, very impressed. Thank you. So we do want to, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So we do want to talk about another data aspect, which is also very important. So data-informed decisioning, right? It provides us with the right decisioning. Why? Because it's more fact-based, right? It's not guesswork. We're not just guessing, pulling something, off from the air and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is our decision. These are the objectives, and these are the values that we are going to, sponsor or focus on for the next quarter or iteration. But so coming from, and this would be for Trevor, coming from a product management perspective, right? And I know you're working in a venture lab, but this could be from a product manager's perspective, who is actually, and I think you also probably do that in your role, where you're balancing a lot of things, right? You're balancing your stakeholders, or you're balancing in your area, it would be more of balancing your clients' interests, right? And you're trying to pivot things. In a product manager's world, they'll be pivoting your features. You're taking decisions as to whether you want to retire this product or not, or retire any features that are part of the product. So as a product manager or a product management personnel, you are literally taking all these decisions, and the core to those decisions is prioritizing. You're taking these decisions because you know that, what is your priority, and that is what defines your decisions, right? So from that perspective, I want to know, how do you approach prioritizing those features or that work, right? And what role does data play in making those decisions and choices?
Yeah, how much time do we have? That's a pretty big question. So I think one thing that will distinguish some of my answers from my other two distinguished panelists is that in the zero stage, you don't have a lot of data, right? You don't have a lot of quantitative data, right? You have tens, maybe hundreds of data points for any given decision that we're trying to make. But before I dive into that, you did mention one thing, and that's managing stakeholders, which I have one stakeholder that is my boss at Harmony Venture Labs. But anytime we have a product launch, there's a CEO, right? And that's also a stakeholder of mine, as long as they are sort of under the wing of Harmony Venture Labs before they're spun out entirely. Stakeholder management is an exercise in trust building. That's really what it boils down to. Every stakeholder, every CEO has a way that they like to be communicated with, but that communication should be frequent, clear, and it should be in a modality that connects with that stakeholder. The reason it's important is because your job as a product manager is deciding what to build that connects to the business objectives, right? A lot of people think of product management as just deciding what to build based on user value, but really it's connecting the user value to the business value, because if you don't have the business value, then you have a hobby, and that's not what we're in the business of. So developing that trust level with a stakeholder is super important because it gives you the flexibility to start making decisions without having a bunch of run-ins where they're like, this is not what I want this, right? So going back into data, most of what we work with is qualitative data. And qualitative data can look like things that maybe immediately pop to mind, like a call with a customer, right? We're getting feedback from customers, we're getting feature requests, but it can also look like a Hotjar recording. If anybody's used Hotjar, it basically maps, you actually can visualize users' path through your product. You can see where things are sticky. It's not really a data point. You're interpreting how are they feeling about things, what are they doing inside of my application, where are they getting stuck. So when it comes to prioritization, what we have to do in our team is develop a nice balance between using the quantitative data that is available to us, a lot of qualitative data, and then developing our own product sense, our own sense of taste, right? We have to be able to interpret and make judgment calls and decisions that leverage all of those inputs, most of it again qualitative, to make high quality decisions. Here's the crux of it. I've said this once already. Everything at the stage that we work at is an experiment, right? So what we have to do is run that process of get some data, learn something from our customers, learn something from a feature that has been launched, see how it goes, learn, and decide if we're going to iterate or if we're going to shut that thing down, right? Sometimes that's just a feature, sometimes it's an entire product. But the key to what we do, nothing that we do looks like the early Facebook team that's, so famous and well known for these very, very data-driven decisions about growing the product. Everything we do is about speed and iteration. It's all about experimentation and learning. So it's a little bit different for us, but based on what we're hearing from people, based on where we're seeing people connect with features inside of the product, seeing how our activation and engagement numbers are moving, that's really what goes into prioritizing a roadmap. And it happens weekly, if not several times a week, based on what we're learning. So it's very rapid fire, it's very intense, and it's a little bit chaotic. That's why we have a small team. We're really tight. We work together in the same room so that we can start moving that iterative learning process pretty rapidly.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts, right? And you got to keep track of them. And facts really help keep it together. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move into design thinking. Can I get the next slide? Thank you. So, with design thinking, I wanna ask Maggie. Maggie, I know you've been doing this for a long time with design, right? And I'm not a design expert. The only thing I know is the double diamonds, and they're fantastic. They're awesome. I love that concept. But so, how does design thinking, right? How does design thinking shape a digital product's success, especially in creating great user experience? So maybe could you just share an example of a time when putting yourself in the shoes of a customer actually brought in a big improvement in usability? If there's something you can share with us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first part, I think the true value of design thinking is that it offers a defined process for innovation, right? Like, as I'm sure Trevor can attest to, trial and error is a really time-consuming and expensive way to try to learn things. It works, but it's ultimately not particularly efficient. And I think, on the other hand, the concrete steps of design thinking is a more efficient way to develop a new and innovative solution because it's rooted in solving a problem for a user or a group of people. Traditional innovation, like that kind of aha moment, really prioritizes that idea. Design thinking says stop ideating for the sake of ideating, right? Like, understand the people first. So that's probably what I'd get at in terms of the value of the design thinking approach. And in terms of an example, I think, as a part of building that empathy and understanding your users, it's really, really important to step outside the confines of the product, right? You have to understand the context and the environment in which someone is using your product. And ultimately, that's where I've actually found probably more of the more profound usability enhancements is coming from that understanding. I think about this with my gig experience design team a lot. So again, the gig workers are those ones that are going into the stores and shopping, and we do a ton of field research. We observe shoppers, and we actually go on shops ourselves. And what we've really learned kind of in doing that is that the shopper app, the tool that these shoppers use, has got to be built for a one-handed experience, right? Imagine you're in the grocery store, you're a gig worker, you're going, you're looking through your phone, trying to make sure you've got this customer shopping list right, because you really don't want to mess that up. You've got your hand on the cart and you're pulling products off the shelf. You don't have time to put both your hands on this mobile app and try to navigate it. And so one of the first things I did at Shipt actually six years ago was rework our shopping experience to accommodate that one hand, right? So think things like bigger icons, adding images, removing manual inputs, which require two hands, increasing the size of the tap targets, because we all know how that works. And these were really things that ultimately enhance the efficiency of our shoppers, and do lead to big gains in usability. And so it's almost kind of actually developed into a mantra for the team a bit to say, hey, when you're designing a new feature or looking back over an old one, can you do it with one hand? And if not, we need to try a different approach.
Yeah, I agree. It helps build a lot of that user empathy, right, day one, and you're really thinking from the perspective of the users, customers. Thank you. Okay, but I do have a question for Trevor. I know Trevor loves the topic of innovation. Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't? So, any supporters for innovation in the crowd?
Oh, come on.
Who wants to get their ways of working better, bring more efficiency every day? Really? Come on. It should be, right? It should be the top of our priority. But Trevor, so real quick question, and again, related to user feedback, right? So how do you balance user feedback with innovation in product management? Because it's like one is dependent on the other, and the other is dependent on the one, it's symbiotic. So help us look at that picture from a product perspective, maybe real quick, Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, user feedback, well, let me start by distinguishing that they're not mutually exclusive. Innovation requires the input of many different research initiatives, one of them being user feedback. So in this context, we're talking about an existing product. Like I said, a lot of what we do is bringing things out of nothing, right? And so we treat user feedback as one of the many inputs into our innovation process. We do have a process, we do have frameworks. We joked about the double diamond and design thinking. We treat those as sort of tools in our tool belt, right? We kind of pull them out based on the situation that we're looking at. But user feedback, we think about that as less about the specifics and more about how does this fit into a jobs to be done framework, right? When I get a request from a user, when I get feedback from a user, oftentimes what they're telling me is contextualized based on what already exists, right? When they're saying, I want this calendar integration because I've used it somewhere else before and I think that would be perfect. Well, that might be the right way to solve for that, but it might not. What do they actually want to accomplish with that calendar integration? And are there other ways that we could think about creating solutions for that job to be done that also tick the boxes of this is unique and differentiated, right? Differentiation is really, really critical. I was having a conversation right before this started where someone was asking me about email tools, right? Marketing email, transactional emails. And I was like, honestly, it's a pretty crowded space and it's pretty commoditized, so pick one and go with it. You don't want to be there, right? That's not a place you want to be. So when we get this user feedback, we use that as a sort of job to be done input into the innovation process that we couple with really deep market research. We're always looking for technological, regulatory, and social inflection points that we can harness to give ourselves an advantage in the future, right? And I can go into more of that if you want. But it's a critical part of that process. Does that help?
Agree.
Cool.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you. And we are going to go into the Q&A in a minute or two. I know you all have questions, but thank you. So the last, second last question for the panel. I'm gonna, and this is for everybody. But so think of it as, and I'm gonna read the scenarios. This is shared with us. So a tech company recently launched an app to help users manage their daily tasks more efficiently. After 3 months, a customer feedback survey revealed that only half of the app's features were being used consistently. While users praised the core scheduling and reminder functions, other features like budgeting and goal setting saw minimal engagement. This feedback prompted the company to consider a pivot or repositioning to better meet customer needs. When a product isn't resonating with the market, it happens sometimes, believe me. I'm about to do that with one of my products. So how do you adjust the marketing strategy or messaging to recover? Because a lot is at stake, right? A lot of efforts have been in there. And I definitely would like everyone on the panel to share, their opinion on that, their thoughts on that. Yeah. Yep, go ahead, Melissa.
I'll start off. That's a hard conversation to have with any company, and to get to that realization point of a pivot could be necessary it takes a lot of, especially for a startup. For everyone in the room, for the innovative-minded people, that hundreds of thousands, if not a few $1 million, could go into a product development, design, and marketing concept launch. So getting to a pivot point is very, very financially curious. So you have to really focus on it. But in terms of how to handle a pivot after launch, it can go in two different ways. In this scenario, I would have, deviating conversations, whether it was with the design team, the development team, and then just the marketing. Externally, does the marketing concisely communicate the value props that the product team developed into the product for best ease of use? Are we communicating it well? Or diversely, is it that there's something going on with the UX and UI that is sticking? And I think both Trevor and Maggie can kind of talk about how they would handle those respective responsibilities. But for product marketing, it is the first step is taking that customer data and taking the data from the user trials, from the usability tests, and how the actual product is being engaged with, and trying to figure out what are they liking about it. How can we at least continue developing out additional features and benefit conversations with the client, and defining out what specific aspects are being well used, and communicating those outward. Within a company, to be very pragmatic, even if you are having a conversation about a potential pivot that could take 6 months, you still need to have acquisition channels open and going while you're having internal conversations. So you still need to pivot your marketing irrespective of internal conversations to acquire net new customers on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So it is important to have dueling conversations, and having the mindset of, not saying that this is the best product, not saying, definitive things, but helping the customers better use the product, maybe launching product demos, maybe launching more in-person trainings, depending on what the product is, to help people learn how to use the product while you're internally trying to navigate the pivot. So for product marketing, it is, spinning plates, keeping a lot of plates spinning at the same time. And, they're all color coded. They all have to go at different speeds, and they all have, soup on them sometimes because customers get angry when the product doesn't do exactly what they want them to do. And so you have to alleviate those concerns, eliminate brush fires as much as possible, and then continue on with the product marketing for that net new customer acquisition, because somebody's got to pay for that pivot.
Definitely. That's why I said there's a lot at stake, right? And you're not the one taking those decisions up at the top. So you better have better reasoning, better data to kind of convince. But were you going to say something, Trevor?
Oh, I can.
Sure. I mean, you're most welcome to if you have some time. Yes.
I think you touched on this, but I think the first thing is identify where the core problem is. It may not be a marketing problem. It may be the usability of the product. It could be, honestly, it could just be that you have the wrong value proposition for the people that you're bringing into the funnel. There's a number of things that can be going wrong when you see low feature adoption. I've worked on this a lot with our products, early stage products. It's funny, you mentioned like pivoting can take 6 months. We got to get this done in a week, guys. Like, this is not something where we can take a lot of time, because again, when you're early, you are on the clock. You are racing time and money. And so you do not have that kind of time to sit and think about, what is this pivot going to look like? You have to have a list of experiments generated and can be run very, very quickly, very rapidly. So we work in terms of days and weeks, not necessarily in terms of months, or God forbid, even years at our stage. I think Shagan would fire me if we did that. Identifying the right problem. I mean, obviously, my team and I are well suited to addressing product issues and design issues, but marketing is a really, really important partner for us as well. So product marketing is really where we live in that regard. So our marketers kind of like move in and out of the discrete marketing team and into the product team just based on what needs to happen. But there's a lot of wayfinding. There's a lot of helping with just like in-app copy that can be adjusted. Sometimes we're just launching email campaigns to help educate users on these features. And sometimes we just find out it's the wrong feature and we just need to pull it out. I've done that a number of times because, like I said, everything's an experiment.
Yeah, and the sooner the better, right?
Yes, fast.
Do you have anything to say, Maggie?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with what both Trevor and Melissa said. So I think the only thing I'd add is I'd consider, a postmortem as well to dig into like how you got to the decision that resulted in a miss in the market. We've talked about product positioning placement, but the other piece of that is really like, a retro allows you to analyze where that process, where in the process you went wrong. So how did you land on the decision that was the messaging that you were going to market, that was the feature set you were going to go to market with? And it's not intended to be in any sort of criticizing way, but you really need to understand where the process broke down, because that tip can also be how you prevent mistakes like that from happening in the future.
I agree. And that customer feedback happens throughout the life cycle. It never stops, right? You never stop talking to your customers. That's what is going to give you all that insight. Wonderful answers, guys. Awesome. Now I'm going to open us up for the Q&A. How many product managers? I'm curious. Anybody product managers in the crowd? Fantastic. Design folks? Okay. Need to increase the design people here, okay, in this crowd. Maybe next time we'll do work on better on that. How many marketers? Great. Nice. How many product enthusiasts? Everybody else. Or everybody, right? Wonderful. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up for the Q&A. We have about 5 to 10 minutes before we wrap it up. Kaz, any questions for the panelists? Go ahead, Kelly.
Favorite book? Oh God. Okay, so the one that I recommend the most specific to product, I would not call this my favorite overall business book, is it's either going to be Continuous Discovery Habits by Teresa Torres, or it's going to be The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. Those two are foundational books because so much of product management, I think a lot of product managers get into trouble because they skip straight over to data analysis and like making data-driven decisions, and they forget to go talk to people. And those two books are about talking to customers and collecting opportunities. One is more formal, one's less formal. That's why I would pair them together. But I think those are foundational books for any new product manager. Yeah.
Do y'all want to talk about your own domain books also, like Maggie and Melissa?
I have one that I always, no matter what level of career people are at, I always throw them this book because it really helped me out. It is called Crucial Conversations, and I am not well read enough to remember the author, so Trevor beats me on that one point. But it is a tactical guide for having really difficult conversations at different varying steps of relationships, whether it's business, professional, personal. It gets you in the mindset of there's a way to tell a company that, you know, they have low engagement on a feature, they need to pivot, or they are in a financial, hole, they need to like make some features redundant to save server space. It's a good book for learning how to effectively, efficiently, and nicely present bad news. I'm a very tactic person. I love listening to motivational speakers because I think it's lovely, flowery language. But I could not handle just a book about like, here's how you want to feel when you say something. I need step one. Here's that, and here's an explanation, and here's an example of how this person talked to their business partner. So I really appreciated that part of that book, and it was really great to keep on my desk during negotiations.
Yeah, and I'd say, I don't know if this is directly related to today. We didn't really get into the management side of things, but there's a book by Julie Zhao, who was the VP of design at Facebook for a while. And I see Making of a Manager, I read at least, I don't know, probably once every 6 months, because there's just something about the way that it's written that even makes me think about design. But that's a go-to. It's sitting on my desk and it's never going to move.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, definitely. Can I suggest one? I think it's called Steal Like an Artist.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That is a good one.
That's a good one. I started on it. I think it's. I tried Hooked. It hooked me only for the first 2 chapters. Then I was unhooked. But definitely, the Lean Startup and Phoenix Project and all the Marty Kagan books are great. And if you are interested in the product. The last one that was from Marty Kagan, Empowered and Transformed. Yes, that was good. It was for product operations. If you're interested in setting up a whole product transformation for any of your clients, that's fantastic. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
Yeah, so in terms of the number of interactions that you're having with the user, what are you trying to solve?
So we're trying to retain users to continue using our product to manage their insurance world. And if you're in grocery, you have the ability to win those users with design on a weekly basis.
Right.
And maybe I only get to do this every 6 months. How can I design my products to help those users when I don't get to see them that often?
Yeah, that's a really great question. To be honest, what's interesting is grocery may be a weekly buying habit, but the likelihood that they're buying their groceries from Shipt weekly is pretty low. So I do think there's some similar kind of, yes, we may be a more frequent purchase or frequent kind of habitual product, but we've really had to look outside of just the confines of grocery too, right? So that's for in the Shipt parallel, we looked at what does it mean to try to get people to purchase their pet products from Shipt? What does it mean to try to get people to purchase their home improvement needs from Shipt? So kind of, expanding in that way has been helpful for us to say, yes, those may not be your weekly grocery purchases, but they are supplemental purchases that you make kind of at other points throughout the month. So, I think in your case, I can't say I have, enough insight to really give you a specific answer, but I do think that it's like, what are those other moments or opportunities that are more frequent that occur around, around insurance that you could expand into?
To add to that, you're 100% correct. This is one of the reasons talking to continually doing user research and collecting opportunities. You can use something like an opportunity solution tree or a spreadsheet, but you don't want to be caught flat-footed when you're like, well, geez, people don't change their insurance very frequently, right? But we need better engagement with our product. So you've got to continually be talking to people and collecting these adjacent opportunities to what your core product line is, so that you look around, you're like, we don't have very high engagement. Let's look at these other opportunities or these things we should explore. So, yeah.
I'd like to, this is a fun conversation. So in terms of retention marketing for specific to insurance, I would flatten out the customers into like trends analysis and segmentation. So on the trend side, if you have identified the particular customers who have canceled insurance payments with you, group them all together and look back in a trends analysis of, what were their engagements 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ahead of their cancellation, and get a trend, get an understanding of what's happening to that customer ahead of them making this cancellation decision. Are they engaging with less emails? Are they not, following you on social? Are they not picking up the phone? Were they talking to you once a month, but now after a certain time period, they stop talking to you? What was their engagement, and how can you better suit that for the people that could potentially be re-loop back into a retention strategy? You're going to lose some percentage, but lowering that percentage of loss over the course of a really methodical strategy and looking at the cancellation trends would allow for you to recoup a lot of costs. And then on the segmentation side, I would segment your audiences based on your business goals. So it could be that you really want to grow your bundled audience, your bundled customer base. So segment those out and then really articulate messaging specific to those individuals and use a highly data-oriented agency to pinpoint modeled audience and specifically communicate bundled benefits to people that look just like your current customer base. And that's marketing 101, but it would allow for you to have very specific business goals and your customers segmented within that. So it's not just you're segmenting your audience based on gender or age or income. You need to go a little bit further internal of what would benefit you the most? Why would you care of gaining 20% of 18 to 24-year-olds? Well, because they have higher longevity than 64-year-olds. But the business is the way you articulate the audience segmentation is a little bit different.
Awesome. I love that answer. Any other questions? You have a question? Go ahead.
Sorry.
So you mentioned about gutting features and making pivots. I was wondering what kind of framework you use to assess opportunity versus risk.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables at play there. The first thing we look at is just pure engagement. We don't spend a lot of money on product analytics tools. Frankly, we use ChatGPT to write SQL queries and pull data from the database ourselves and just make sure that the product is instrumented in a way that we can get that data. If a feature is really seeing low engagement, the first thing we're going to do is look at our Hotjar recordings. We're going to start talking to our users and asking them hey, have you checked this out? What's your feedback on it? We're also going to do an analysis of how much it costs to maintain that particular part of the application. We have a a product called Listikit that's in the real estate tech space, and there was an e-signature tool that was built for that. Did not see very high engagement, and it was really expensive to use. So, and then we also calculated what it would cost to redesign the flows for that particular part of the application. It was just going to be a big headache, and it wasn't something that was bringing people into the product. So we made, again, you've heard this from me before, qualitative decision, but backed up by different data points that we're pulling in from customers or database, Hotjar recordings, and decided we were going to pull it out of the product. It's still there if we ever want to take a stab at it, but it just really wasn't worth maintaining it moving forward. Does that help? Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Good question. I do have a last question, just a minute for all of our panelists before we hand it over to Tech Birmingham. What's that one piece of advice for our aspiring product leaders that y'all want to get? Y'all have very less time. Let's see if you can squeeze it in. Yeah, but I want to know from each one of you. Yes. Maggie, you want to go?
Yeah, I can start. So this is maybe more a lesson to myself than anything else, but it's strive for progress over perfection. And I say that as a designer because we are trained to notice the details that nobody else does. But you have to, as you move into product leadership, you have to balance that eye for detail, that kind of keen eye with the importance of maintaining momentum. And I think, this is something I kind of have to constantly remind myself of too, is remember, the goal isn't to launch a perfect product on day one. It's to lay a foundation that can evolve as the user evolves, because their needs evolve too. Their needs are not stagnant. So I think that'd be my kind of one takeaway is strive for progress over perfection.
Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, I'll follow up. It is hard to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
That is a lifelong lesson. But one of the things is nimbleness, agility, and just kind of maintaining that curiosity over the longevity of your career is going to be vital. Just in the last 5-10 years, we've seen a massive explosion in technology and innovation, entrepreneurial spirits across industry, verticals, channels, everything. TikTok wasn't here 10 years ago, guys. So we have massive improvements, and the biggest thing is to stay curious. I feel like I should put that on a t-shirt, like Austin says, get weird. But stay curious, learn new applications. Right out of college, I was a graphic designer. I ran so far away from graphic design because it wasn't my jam. And I am in data privacy and data articulation, so it can go a lot of different ways. But stay curious. Be curious about the applications, the methodology, everything. There's a lot of things to be curious about.
For me, embrace discomfort. If you're aspiring, if you're new to product, it is an uncomfortable role. It is not a role for the faint of heart. I do a lot of work to try and encourage people to get comfortable with that. You're going to have a lot of imposter syndrome. You're going to get a lot of calls wrong, right? And the goal, to Maggie's point, is to fail in a way that allows you to try again. Don't fail in a way that kills your company or kills your career, right? We're striving for learning more than anything, and once you get the reps in, you will get better. The last thing, start a side project, very tactical. If you're aspiring, see if you can find a consulting client. Try to build a product with ChatGPT. Just get yourself out there and learn. As I said before, I have a really weird background. I've done a lot of different things. I've learned all of those things by just doing it, just being brave enough to get in there and start learning to cook, or start learning to code, or start learning about design and marketing. So start a side project, see how it goes. You'll learn a lot, even if it doesn't end up taking off.
Yeah. I guess I always say possibilities. They know we're capabilities, right? Thank you. Can we get the next slide, please? Thank you. I have one extra question, a request from y'all. You cannot leave this room without scanning that QR code. That is a survey coming from Birmingham Product, your user group in the city of Birmingham, okay, for product. So we do want you guys to please give us your honest survey. We are trying to make this event and others better, trying to get some more topics for discussion so that we're able to get better at this and serve the community better, okay? I'm gonna turn it over to Birmingham. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. What a wonderful panel, guys.
Fantastic panel and conversation. Really enjoy listening to you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Smita, again, thank you so much for just your idea and your vision. Really looking forward to doing more in 2025. Three things before we all get up out of here. Another round of applause for the panelists. Two, make sure you reach out to us at Tech Birmingham. Let us know what it is that you all are thinking on an individual level, on a company level. What is it that you see in other markets? As we're thinking about our strategy for 2025 and beyond, we want to make sure that we're incorporating that feedback. As Trevor alluded to, we're talking to our customers. We're talking to our members here. And so we want to make sure that we are listening to your voice. If our job is to be the voice of the technology ecosystem, we want to make sure that we know what it is that we need to say to whomever is on the other end of that call or that conversation that we're having. And then the third thing is be safe and stay curious. Whoever said that. Thanks again, y'all.
Fantastic, guys.